Welcome to New Spirit TV. I'm here with Dominik Schnell, very excited to be here at inSpiral Lounge in Camden. CEO of inSpiral Visionary Products, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really passionate about what you're doing, and I know that you are, so please tell me a little bit about the company's vision and what inSpiral is all about.
Well, inSpiral, like the name says, is about inspiration, and there's more to the history of that name, but really that's kind of what it boils down to. We want to utilize food as one aspect, but also creativity, a way of doing business as a vehicle to inspire change, positive change for the future, because quite obviously the way we've been doing business in this world is not the way we can continue. And there's so many different aspects to it. I often call food and the food products that we produce little Trojan horses of consciousness that gallop out into the world and, as we hope, inspire people to think differently about their relationship to food. But as we are part of the whole, this also means their relationship to the world that we live in, the nature, the animals, the plant kingdom. And so as a bigger vision, really, we aspire to help in some small way facilitate positive change in our society.
That's fantastic. And all of your products are raw, vegan and organic. Not 100%, but mostly, right?
Most of them are. They're organic where they can be. Some products you just cannot get organically.
Right.
So.
And you also have here at inSpiral conscious music, poetry and spoken words, right? Which I love. What's the company's long-term aims?
See, I need to sort of reach out a little bit in explaining this.
Yeah.
I've come to realize that within the consumerist society that we live in, where religion has been superseded by this idealism of consuming, buying, having things, a brand is a powerful vehicle to communicate change. Whilst consumerism for consumerism's sake is something that you want to look at very critically, we all need to consume some things. We need to eat, we need to clothe ourselves, we need to have the tools to interact positively. Now, therefore, my belief is that to create a conscious, ethical brand that people subscribe to suddenly is a more powerful way of getting through to people than standing on a soapbox in the corner and trying to get people to listen to your spiritual words. So the vision is to grow the brand, to make the name itself a household recognizable item.
Thank you. Pure carrot, ginger and apple juice. Thank you.
Enjoy. So the vision is to get our products out into people's cupboards, to get the name to become a recognizable sort of household name. We would also love to come back to the retail side of things, which is this experiential aspect of the inSpiral world. Here you go, meet friends, you have conscious events, you see the whole food, you can talk to people about nutrition. There's, like you mentioned, music, poetry, there's different aspects to the bigger picture.
I love how that you're bringing those elements into the whole experience, and how that people get this idea of vegans being this sandal-wearing hippies, and I love how that you have the alcohol here, the organic alcohol. So to prove that vegetarians and vegans like to have fun as well. Right?
And I think fun is such an important way of communicating a message. If we're just wagging a finger saying the world's got to change, don't eat meat, you don't get people to listen to you really. But if you can package it in a way where it's accessible, it's light-hearted, and still delivers a message that is important, my belief is that actually we can achieve a lot more than alienating people. And you're quite right, the vegan image has been sort of like slightly drab, not that great food quite often, it's healthy but it doesn't taste so good. Actually changing that, creating really tasty food is one thing.
Your food is delicious.
Thank you, that's good to hear. Yeah. But also within an environment that is contemporary, it's funky, it's creative. So there you go.
There's a great atmosphere here. Whenever I've been here, I've always had such a great time at inSpiral in Camden, and I hope to see more restaurants from you in the future. Are there any plans for that?
Well, our focus at the moment is on our products. Right. So we're really excited to get kale chips, raw foods, superfood laden snacks out into the world to help people make those choices. Yeah. Potato chips, kale chips,
And if you haven't
Kale
tried
chips.
kale chips, they're incredible.
They
I
are
urge you to
pretty good.
try inSpiral's kale chips.
Great. And once we've steadied that progress, we'd love to come back to the retail side and open more restaurants like this.
Right.
But another long-term vision of ours is actually to go and not open I should say, but to actually buy a large piece of land with a farm, move our production of foods there, have a show kitchen, a catering facility where people can learn, we can do workshops, healing, events, and have a whole community of people. So we work with woofers, we have people on site, it will be a showcase for alternative energy and biodynamic farming. So there's a whole bigger vision associated with this, and if all goes well in 3-5 years, we'll be moving in that direction.
Well, you're a visionary, and then you're on the forefront of this movement, and I really applaud what you're doing. It's fantastic. And is there any message that you would like to share with anyone that's watching about the types of foods that you're creating?
It's not so much about the types of foods that we're creating, it's about the types of food that you're eating at home, because you out there have such a powerful tool within your own cupboard at home and within your purse to send a message out to the forces that be that do not respect the planet and do not have our best interest at heart. And often times I hear people, and I speak to many people, and they feel disempowered, they feel not part of the opportunity for change, and yet they are so powerful. It's just this process of awakening, which if it ripples out further, and that's what we're passionate about, contributing to, if it ripples out further, change will inevitably happen.
You're waking people up through food and through art. Thank you. And what about the recipes? How are they brought about? Do you have a team of people that work on them?
We have a great team of people, and a lot of the there's a variety of people, but first of all we have a whole host of criteria that we need to meet. So we would never use normal sugars, we wouldn't fry, we don't use anything with additives, we don't use GM, of course, stay away from that. We don't overload it with salt, and we don't use processed ingredients. We try not even use soya, because a lot of vegetarians veer towards loads of soya. We try and stay away from that, or vegans I should say. And we try and reduce it back to whole food, plant-based, as optimum as possible. So,
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a quote on your website which was, "We believe passionately that a whole food, plant-based diet is the solution to many of our serious global problems, such as human disease, animal suffering, and the environment." I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I think it is the future, and you're leading the way.
Well, from where you're at, it may seem so obvious, but if you're stuck in a world that is infused by the propaganda of corporations that make you think that Coca-Cola, Big Macs, Kit Kats and processed food is just normal, and those people that eat salads, vegetables and whole grains are freaks, it's a very different picture, isn't it? And yet it's so obvious to us. Nature intended us to use what it gives as medicine. So by getting closer to that understanding and that nutrition, so many of our modern day diseases would just fall away.
How would you describe wheat and what wheat does to the human system?
That's an interesting point, isn't it? Because a few hundred years back, wheat as such there wasn't that much wrong with it. Firstly, people would eat it as a whole grain, so you get all the nutrients, the minerals that sit in the husk. These days, we grind it down, having hybridized it for hundreds of years into one single strand. And wheat, in its pure sort of glutinous form, is actually quite aggressive to the human body. I mean, just the simple fact that within sort of big consumerist culture now, wheat is re-infused or re-saturated with synthetic vitamins so that we don't end up with scurvy and other depletion diseases. That just says it all to me. So wheat, be cautious with it is certainly our approach. Whole grain is the better way, and ideally we veer towards rye, spelt and healthy grains.
And sugars, you don't use processed sugars in your products. What inspired you to create the restaurant and the brand and the product?
Well, that's a personal journey. I suffered from candida many years back, and that faced me with the inevitability of having to review all my food choices very radically, and suddenly from having a fairly standard, healthy but still standard diet, I had to look into why can't I eat this, what's wrong with this, why is that not right, and it was like a forced revelation, one after the other, quite tough to go through, but I'm very grateful to it in hindsight, because I would have stayed asleep otherwise for many more years to come.
So it was through your own journey?
My own health journey, absolutely.
And what inspired the location of where your restaurant is?
Well, do you believe in chance or synchronicity? That's
Absolutely.
the question, really.
Yeah,
I'm a great believer in synchronicity, and in many ways I feel it was meant to happen for us to be at what I call a mainstream, like an artery of mainstream culture. And you know, you can maybe refer to it from a acupuncture point of view as well. Where we are here, thank you, we're at a very powerful location to have impact on a broader spectrum of people. People here, Camden has become very hedonistic, it's very consumerist, there's hundreds and thousands of tourists from all around the world. Many of them don't know anything about veganism, raw foods, superfoods, they don't know anything about this, and this is what we're excited about. We don't want to preach to, you know, a bunch of really switched on raw foodists. Bring them along, great, you're welcome anytime, but bring with you your aunts, your friends, your uncles, for them to be inspired by this, because this needs to go out further.
So you're making it accessible to the general populace?
That's always been our inspiration. There's no point creating these sort of centres of consciousness which are only accessible to an elite of people who can either afford it or have access to it. It has to go out to a broader market.
That's fantastic. So I really appreciate your time today, Dominik Schnell from inSpiral. Thank you so much for taking this time. It's lovely to meet you.
Likewise.
Okay. Thank you to Brian Wood and for inSpiral for providing the restaurant and the juice and the inspiration. See you next time on New Spirit TV. Thank you.